You know, I cover a lot of stories on this channel. A lot of them are crime related. Obviously, there's a focus to my YouTube channel, and that's something that I'm very interested in. It's why I went to school for it. And a lot of those stories are quite serious. In fact, I have a couple of stories on deck that are absolutely gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, and terrifying. But the thing is, I also like to have fun. The thing is, occasionally, when I look through a bunch of bad stories, I see one that's so hilarious, so magical, so wonderful, that it also needs the same level of coverage as the dark ones. Otherwise, we're all gonna go crazy. And the story that I bring out to you guys today, I actually stumbled upon because of my brother, and because of the fact that I was interested in this whole shooting at KFC over them running out of corn situation, and I thought that was absurd. I thought that was insane. I thought that was a terrible pattern of behavior because I've seen other fast food related stories that are just as violent over just as ridiculous circumstances. But then I came across this one, and thank you again to my brother for sending it to me, because it's the greatest story of all time, because the stakes of this crime are so low, yet the level of violence presented at the beginning of it are so high that we have to talk about it. And yes, we're going to talk about today the racial recasting of McDonald's Hamburglar. But before we get into that, before we do the deep dive that this story deserves, this video is sponsored, so I'm going to toss it to the sponsor, then bring it back over here, and we'll discuss on the other side. Gold is heading for $2,000 an ounce, and that's not me saying this, that's not my speculation, that's according to Bank of America's own interpretation of the data. And considering at the beginning of this month, we started at around $1,800 an ounce, and it's steadily climbing, it doesn't look like that's outside of the realm of possibility. And considering all the problems in the crypto market, it makes sense that people would look for a safe haven in something tangible, something real, something with a long track record of being able to hedge against inflation, and of course that's gold. And luckily for you guys, I'm actually sponsored by Noble Gold Investments, and if you go over there, you can talk to an expert, look up what you can do to secure your retirement, and if you open a qualifying IRA this month, you will be gifted an American Virtue 3-ounce silver coin. That's 3 ounces of silver, and all you have to do is call them at 877-646-5347 or visit them at noblegoldinvestments.com and open a qualifying IRA. noblegoldinvestments.com. Again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com. So the story that we're talking about today, the one that we're going to do a deep dive over, is a story out of New York. And to be more specific, it's out of New York City. And to be even more specificer, it's actually out of the Bronx. And this story is unique, it's special, it's wonderful in every possible way, because normally when I talk about criminals and somebody posits that, oh, they're just trying to steal food for their family, they're actually kind of like Aladdin in that way, I laugh them off, I dismiss them, I make fun of them, and then I tell you guys to point and laugh at them as well, so that we can increase the shame train. However, I do want to point out that even though a knife was pulled in this McDonald's, even though we are discussing a robbery of a McDonald's, no money was taken. All the criminal that we're talking about today wanted to do was take food from McDonald's, so he pulled the knife and then walked back to the counter and proceeded to take food off of the shelf. That is what happened in this tale. And honestly, the video is really what this is all about, so you gotta see it for yourself. Let me play it.
Police are searching for a suspect who stole food from McDonald's in the Bronx. It happened at the fast food restaurant on East 170th Street in the Mount Eden section last week. Now, investigators say the suspect, you can see him here, threatened workers with a knife before going behind that counter. Police then say this individual stuffed his pockets with more than 24 chicken nuggets and 2 double cheeseburgers. No one was injured throughout this whole incident. If you have any information, you know who that guy is. Call Crime Stoppers.
Now, you might be thinking, no way. You might be thinking, that's ridiculous. You might be thinking, that's absurd. This man who has a COVID mask is not wearing it. It is below his chin, so you can see his whole face. Decided not to commit a regular robbery, but to commit an aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, with a knife, and his goal, his intent, his thing that he wanted was 24 chicken nuggets. That would be 4 orders of the 6-piece, if you guys are not sure how McDonald's works, and 2 double cheeseburgers. On top of that, we need to break down this video as if it's the Zapruder film, because it is in fact the Zapruder film. First and foremost, the racial recasting of the Hamburglar, I'm not into it. I get that you wanted somebody with a striped shirt, but obviously those stripes are vertical, they're supposed to be horizontal. Also, you changed the whole color of the costume up top. I am not into it at all, and even the Hamburglar, even though he is the most notorious thief in McDonald's history, had the common sense to wear a mask over his eyes so you could at least obscure part of his face. On top of that, don't know if you noticed this, but I definitely did. Hamburglar, originally a ginger. Yet another ginger that has been replaced by a black person in our pop culture, in our media, and honestly, this is probably the truest crime of all. But to get off that topic for a second, to talk about the racial mishmash of the Hamburglar a little bit less, we need to talk about how bad of a plan this is, because one of the things I look for when I'm discussing criminality, one of the things I look for when I'm trying to figure out whether or not somebody is a criminal mastermind or not, is how they perform under the scrutiny of the surveillance video. So, we've already dinged him about 5 points because he has a mask available to him. You're allowed to wear that kind of mask in a store, but he decided that he was going to have that mask somewhere around his chin so you can see his whole face. Now, for some reason, they decided at the local news to blur everyone in this McDonald's because nobody wanted to be associated with such heinous crime, and honestly, part of the reason why I wanted to look at this video is I thought all that blur was people that were actually wounded by this guy during the course of the robbery, but it turns out he pulled out a knife. Even though there's a whole bunch of people in there, they kind of just let him go back there and grab what he wanted and leave, and he did just go back there, grab what he wanted, and left. However, I do need to point out that the mask not being over his face was also not the only marker of a lack of preparedness on behalf of this robber. When you look at the video, when you actually break it down like we're breaking it down today, you will notice that he had nowhere to put the food that he wanted to steal. This guy pulls a knife, again, escalates this robbery to felony levels by needlessly adding in a deadly weapon, goes behind the counter to get his food, isn't even looking over his shoulder in case one of the McDonald's people decide that they want to attack him, maybe Grimace, we all know Grimace holds it down, and he has nowhere to put the food he's looking for. Look, he's trying to fit those burgers in his pocket. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to steal things from the dollar menu and make that a felony through my actions, I would think maybe to bring it back. Or better yet, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but over at McDonald's, they have bags. You could have asked for a to-go bag or grabbed it. This guy did neither, so I'm forced to look at him on video trying to awkwardly stuff double cheeseburgers into his pockets. Which, again, leads me to believe that this person is just out there in the city of New York, in the Bronx. He was online at McDonald's, and he decided at some point that it was better to rob them than to pay for the food that he was already going to order, but he didn't want to rob them too much because he was only going to eat a certain amount. So in that way, this is kind of a thief with a heart of gold situation. So this guy is not only a racial recasting of the Hamburglar, but he's also Aladdin.
Police then say this individual stuffed his pockets with more than 24 chicken nuggets and 2 double cheeseburgers.
I mean, seriously, people, if you're gonna commit an armed robbery, if you're gonna threaten to kill people, then you should probably do that for at least $20 worth of items. In fact, I'm not even certain that this is over $10 worth of items. The only reason I'm questioning it is because there is inflation. That inflation has hit fast food prices, specifically in major metropolitan areas. So he might have actually stolen about $12.56 worth of stuff. And it's just hilarious to watch him slowly, methodically hop over the counter. It's hilarious to watch, even though all the people are blurred in the NYPD footage, not really react to the fact that an armed robbery is taking place. Most of these people don't even change their position in line. They seem to be totally fine with it. And again, it is such a low stakes crime. The fact that the NYPD is demanding tips also is kind of amusing in some ways.
No one was injured throughout this whole incident. If you have any information, you know who that guy is. Call Crime Stoppers.
I mean, seriously, people, there is nothing about this video, there's nothing about this situation that is not extremely funny. In fact, this guy was so non-intimidating that he has a McDonald's worker, a female McDonald's worker, standing right next to him, looking directly at him as he robs where the food comes out, so that he can have a nice lunch or a nice supper. I'm not exactly sure. Again, this has not really been made clear to me. I don't know if this is in the evening or in the daytime. It's just kind of funny that this guy exists, and he's probably going to get caught for this crime, and he needlessly escalated this crime to the point where it was an armed robbery, and it's way better than covering that whole story of the person who was shot at KFC over corn, because that person's in critical condition. This is a nobody got hurt, extremely low stakes crime story, and it's just so amusing to me in multiple different levels. Like I said earlier that this guy's plan was to put the burgers and whatnot in his pockets, it turns out that is not the case. Upon further review of the surveillance video, he doesn't even have pockets. That is how poorly planned this robbery is. I mean, he has jacket pockets, he could put it in his jacket pockets, but he decided that the best place to put this food that he absolutely needed to steal at this moment would be in his pants. And honestly, after he decided to do that, he could keep the burgers. He could keep it. Nobody's really into it. And really, if McDonald's is not going to put up any resistance for this, if they're just going to give in, for health reasons, it's probably a better idea for them to just hand the food to him rather than having him jump behind the counter. Although, when you physically go behind the counter and then you continue to commit the crime and you start opening stuff up and grabbing stuff from behind the counter, that also needlessly escalates the level of charges, or in a sane society would do that because you are not just getting something handed to you, you're going out of your way to take it. Again, not a violent crime except for the threat of deadly violence, not a serious situation except for the fact that this guy is apparently carrying a knife, but funny all the way through. Now, the only thing that would make this story funnier, the only thing that would make this story more amusing, is if I had a great legendary local news segment where the local news was actually quite cavalier about this, so I could mock their mocking tones. And a perfect example of this is the story I mentioned well at the beginning of this video, related to the person in St. Louis who shot a KFC worker over the fact that a customer was frustrated that they were out of corn. Get a load of the intro from the local St. Louis news related to this story and tell me that this woman's tone doesn't need to be significantly adjusted.
I rate over a lot of things. Tonight, St. Louis police are looking for a man who lost it over a KFC running out of corn.
The man got so mad, he shot an employee.
Now, there's a lot of things that we get mad at over here, and tonight, the police are looking for a guy who shot somebody because the KFC ran out of corn. And then this guy comes in and he's like, you know that he shot that man at KFC. He's in critical condition right now. Why are you opening it with your smiley, happy news voice when this is a very serious crime? It's over stupid reasons. Again, this woman's tone needs to be put to a news segment that matches the first crime, not the second crime. Now, look, there's not much more to the story. I just wanted to give a little bit of a lighthearted break, find something that I enjoyed, and share it with all of you. So I hope that you guys really liked it. But that's really all I have for you guys today. If you liked the video, you can show them by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about the Hamburglar's return. Till next time.